No hall was ever made so immovable as that of Canaan with the gentle breast, sovereign of the saints. He sat no longer on his elevated throne. Whom he pierced were not pierced again. Keen was the point of his lance. It perforated the enameled armor, it penetrated through the troops. Swift in the van were his horses, in front they tore along. In the day of his anger blasting was his blade. When Canaan rushed into battle with the green dawn, a grievous descent was made upon his native territory. He suffered an encroachment, he fixed a limit. His spear forcibly pushed the laughing chiefs of war, even as far as if it reached the valor of the forward elfin. The furze was kindled by the ardent spirit, the bowl of conflict. A grievous descent was made upon his native territory, the price of meat in the hall, and the feast of wine. His blades were scattered about between the two hosts. Illustrious was the knight in front of Gododdin, the furze was kindled by the ardent spirit, the bowl of conflict. A grievous descent was made in front of the extended riches, but the army turned aside, with trailing shields, and those shields were shivered before the hurt of the roaring Pelly. A dwarf from the bloody field hastened to the fence, and on our side there came a hoary-headed man, our chief counselor, mounted on a prancing eyeballed steed, and wearing the golden chain. The boar proposed a compact in front of the course, the great plotter, right worthy was the shout of our refusal, and we cried, let heaven be our protection, let his compact be that he should be prostrated by the spear in battle. Our warriors, in respect of their far-famed fosse, would not quarrel if a host were there to press the ground. For the piercing of the skillful and most learned man, for the fair corpse which fell prostrate on the ground, for the cutting of his hair from his head, for Gwydion, the eagle of the air, did Gwyd bring protection to the field, resembling and honoring his master. Morion of the blessed song, brought protection to the ruined hall, and cleft the heads of the first in youth, in strength, and in old age. Equal to 3 men, though a maid, was Bradwen, equal to 12 was Gwenabwy, the son of Gwen. For the piercing of the skillful and most learned woman, her servant bore a shield in the action, and with energy his sword fell upon the heads of the foe. In Loegr the churls cut their way before the chieftain. He who grasps the mane of a wolf, without a club in his hand, will have it gorgeously emblazoned on his robe. In the engagement of wrath and carnage, Bradwen perished, she did not escape. Carcasses of gold-mailed warriors lay upon the city walls. None of the houses or cities of Christians was any longer actively engaged in war. But one feeble man, with his shouts, kept aloof. The roving birds. Truly Soul of Viren reports that there were more that had chanced to come from Louis, from around the inlet of the flood. He reports that there were more at the hour of matins than the morning breeze could well support. When thou, famous conqueror, wast protecting the air of corn in the uplands, deservedly were we said to run like marked men. The entrance to Dintry was not guarded. There was a mountain with riches for those who should approach it, and there was a city for the army that should venture to enter. But Gwynwyd's name was not heard where his person was not seen. Though there be 100 men in one house, I know the cares of war. The chief of the men must pay the contribution. I am not headstrong and petulant. I will not avenge myself on him who drives me on. I will not laugh in derision. This particle shall go underfoot. My limbs are racked, and I am loaded. In the subterraneous house, an iron chain passes over my two knees. Yet of the meat and of the horn, and of the host of Catraeth, I an iron will sing. What is known to Taliesin, who communicates to me his thoughts, or a strain of Gododdin? Before the dawn of the bright day, the chief exploit of the north did the hero accomplish. Of a gentle breast, a more liberal lord could not be seen. Earth does not support, nor has mother borne such an illustrious, powerful, steel-clad warrior. By the force of his gleaming sword he protected me. From the cruel subterraneous prison he brought me out, from the chamber of death, from a hostile region. Such was Sinu, son of Lewark, energetic and bold. He would not bear the reproach of a congress, seniled. With his vessels full of mead, his sword rang for deeds of violence. He shouted and bounded with aid for the war, and with his arm proved a comprehensive support against the armies of Gododdin and Brianique. Booths for the horses were prepared in the hall. There was streaming gore, and dark brown harness, and from his hand issued a thread of gleam. Like a hunter shooting with the bow was Gwen, and the attacking parties mutually pushed each other, friend and foe by turns. The warriors did not cut their way to flee. but were the generous defenders of every region. To Leclucu, the land of Lu, and Lloydver, to the course of Gododdin, and to the course of Ragno, close at hand, even that hand which directed the splendor of battle, with the branch of Catraeth, before it was shattered by the season of the storm, by the storm of the season, to form a rank against 100,000 men, coming from Dindovid, in the region of Divning. Deeply did they design, sharply did they pierce, wholly did they chant, even the army with the battered shields, and before the bull of conflict, the hostile van was broken. The foe's heaven sorrow greatly trembled. Since the battle of most active tumult, at the border of Bancarw, round the border of Bancarw, the fingers of Bright were hurt by the shaft of a spear. In defense of Pwyl, of Dister and Distar. In defense of Pwyl, of Rodri, and of Reachward. A stout bow was spent by Rhys and Rowdredge. They that were not bold would not attain their purpose. None escaped that was once overtaken and pierced. Not meetly was his buckler pierced. Upon the flank of his steed. Not meetly did he mount. His long-legged, slender, grey charger. Dark was his shaft, dark. Darker was his saddle. Thy hero is in a cell, gnawing the shoulder of a buck. May his hand triumph. But far be the shoulder of venison. It is well that at dawn we came to the support of Gwen. Bradwen abandoned the foaming brine, and fought, slaughtered, and burned, though Morian. She did not surpass in martial deeds. Thou didst not regard the rear or the van of the towering, unhelmeted presence. Thou didst not observe the great swelling sea of knights that would mangle, and grant no shelter to the Saxons. Gododdin, in respect of thee will I demand the dales beyond the ridge of Drumacid. The slave, greedy of wealth, cannot control himself. By the counsel of thy son, let thy valor shine forth. The place appointed for the conference was not mean, in front of Llanvathen. From twilight to twilight he revelled. Splendid and full was the purple of the pilgrim. He killed the defenseless, the delight of the bulwark of toil. His inseparable companion, whose voice was like that of an iron. Together arise the foremost fighting warriors, and in a body march to Catraeth, with noise and eager speed. The effects of the meat in the hall, and of the beverage of wine. Blades were scattered between the two armies. By an illustrious knight, in front of Gododdin. Furs was set on fire by the ardent spirit, the bull of battle. Together arise the expert warriors, and the stranger, the man with the crimson robe, pursue. The encampment is broken down by the gorgeous pilgrim, where the young deer were in full melody. Amongst the spears of Bright thou couldst see no rods, with the base the worthy can have no concord. Moriel in pursuit will not countenance their dishonorable deeds, with his steel blade ready for the effusion of blood. Together arise the associated warriors, strangers to the country, their deeds shall be proclaimed. There was slaughtering with axes and blades, and there was raising large cairns over the heroes of toil. The experienced warriors met together, and all with one accord sallied forth. Short were their lives, long is the grief of those who love them. 7 times their number of Loegrians had they slain. After the conflict their wives raised a scream, and many a mother has the tear on her eyelash. No hall was ever made so faultless. Nor was there a lion so generous, a majestic lion on the path, so kind. As Canaan of the gentle breast, the most comely lord. The fame of the city extends to the remotest parts. It was the staying shelter of the army, the benefit of flowing melody. Of those whom I have seen, or shall hereafter see, on earth, engaged in arms, the battle cry, and war, the most heroic was he, who slew the mounted ravagers with the keenest blade. Like rushes did they fall before his hand. O son of Clydno, of lasting fame, I will sing to thee a song of praise, without beginning, without end. After the feast of wine and the banquet of meat, enriched with the first fruits of slaughter, the mother of spoliation, was the energetic idol. He honored the mount of the van. In the presence of victory, the hovering ravens ascend in the sky. The foremost spearmen around him thicken, like a crop of green barley, without the semblance of a retreat. Warriors in wonder shake their javelins, with pouting and pallid lips, caused by the keenness of the destructive sword. From the front of the banquet, deprived of sleep, they vigorously spring forth, upon the awaking of the mother of the lance. the leader of the din. From the feast of wine and the banquet of mead, they marched to the strife of mail-clad warriors. I know no tale of slaughter which records so complete a destruction. Before Catraeth loquacious was the host, but of the retinue of mighty dog, greatly to be deplored. Out of 300 men, only one returned. From the feast of wine and the banquet of mead, with speed they marched. Men renowned in difficulty, prodigal of their lives. In fairest order round the viands they together feasted. Wine and meat and tribute they enjoyed. From the retinue of mighty dog ruin has come to me. And I have lost my general and my true friends. Of the regal army of 300 men that hastened to Catraeth, alas! None have returned, save one alone. Impetuous as a ball, in the combat of spears, was present, and on his horse would he be found, when not at home, yet elusive was the aid which he brought against Gododdin, for though apart from the wine and meat he was unrestrained, he perished on the course, and red-stained warriors ride the steeds of the knight, who had been in the morning bold. Anger, thou who scatterest the brave, and piercest the sullen like a serpent, thou tramplest upon those who in strong mail are clad, in front of the army, like an enraged bear, guarding and assaulting, thou tramplest upon the furious, in the day of capture, in the dank entrenchment, like the mangling dwarf, who in his fury prepared a banquet for the birds, in the tumultuous fight. Sire art thou named from thy righteous deed, leader, director, and bulwark of the course of battle as Marin, and fortunately wert thou, Madian, born. It is incumbent to sing of the complete acquisition of the warriors, who at Catraeth made a tumultuous round, with confusion and blood, and treading and trampling. Men of toil were trampled because of the contribution of meat in the hoard. But the carnage of the combatants cannot be described even by the cup of bounty. After the excitement of the battle is over, notwithstanding so much splendid eloquence, it is incumbent to sing of so much renown. The tumult of fire, of thunder, and tempest. The glorious gallantry of the night of conflict. The ruddy reapers of war are thy desire. Thou man of toil, but the worthless thou beheadest. The whole length of the land shall hear of thee in battle. With thy shield upon thy shoulder, thou dost incessantly cleave with thy blade, until blood flows like bright wine out of glass vessels. As the contribution for mead thou claimest gold. Wine nourished was Gododdin, the son of Lerai. It is incumbent to sing of the gay and illustrious tribes that, after the fatal fight, filled the river Aron. Their grasp satisfied the hunger of the eagles of Clwyd, and prepared food for the birds of prey. Of those who went to Catraeth, wearers of the golden chain, upon the message of mighty dog, sovereign of the people, there came not honorably in behalf of the Brython. To Gododdin, a hero from afar who was better than Canon. It is incumbent to sing of so many men of skill, who in their halls once led a merry life. Ambitious and bold, all round the world would idle seek for melody. But notwithstanding gold, and fine steeds, and intoxicating mead, only one man of these, who loved the world, returned. Sindalig of Aron, one of the Novandian heroes. It is incumbent to sing of the gay and illustrious tribes that went upon the message of mighty dog, sovereign of the people, and the daughter of Udav the Tall, of a faultless gait, apparelled in her purple robes, thoroughly and truly splendid.